So, hello and welcome to the Walk Off. I'm Scott Belford, and we had our live baseball town last night at Comedy Bar on Danforth. We had Keegan Matheson of MLB.com join us. We had Kaitlyn McGrath of The Athletic come down. Nick from Blue Jays today. That was our panel, and it was an absolute blast. Honestly, it was so great to have so many Blue Jays fans in one spot. We had beers afterwards. And anyways, that's why I'm about to do what I'm about to do here, because I'm honestly just too hungover to do a Friday podcast. So I figured the panel was so great last night. I'm just going to do a little intro for it and release it here. So I hope you enjoy. Next month's show is July 18th. Last night was so great. We actually sold 20 tickets. So we are already at 23% sold out for the 18th. And our panel for next month is incredible. So right after the All-Star break, right before the Jays get back to it against the Tigers, we have Chris Black of Sportsnet, and of course, Down to Black on Twitter. Just such a great follow. Very, very thorough threads. We've got Julia Cruz of MLB.com. And then we've got Ben Schulman, play-by-play announcer for the Blue Jays on radio, 590 The Fan. Very excited for that. Tickets, actually, I'm going to put the link in the comment section here if you're watching on YouTube. If you are listening on audio, comedybar.ca, and then just type in Baseball Town. It's going to be a great show. Hopefully we see you there. Enjoy last night's live performance. I will just give a heads up. I recorded this on my phone, so my apologies if the audio isn't the greatest. It is what it is. At least you get a show. Even though I'm so hungover, I can barely keep my head up. So enjoy. We'll see you all for Long Toss on Sunday. That was something.
Enlightening.
Yes, the gloves came off, right? It was very Danny Jansen in here, so good to see. All right, folks, we are now at the point of the show where we are going to bring out the panel. We're going to talk some Blue Jays for the next 45 minutes or so, and then we're going to go into the crowd and take your questions and comments. So if you've got a question or comment for any of the members of the panel, just save it until we get into that rather than yelling out throughout. Thank you. All right. Let's start with a gentleman that was on the show last month. This man absolutely killed it. Make some noise for Nick from Blue Jays Today! Now, from MLB.com, make some noise and make him feel welcome, Keegan Matheson! Definitely not least, from The Athletic, make some noise for Kaitlyn McGrath! All right. Kaitlyn, I hate to do this, but I'm going to boo you over there. Thank you.
I didn't even.
Yes, we all do.
Scott's a diva.
We're there. All right, so let's start with a quick, how you doing? Keegan, how's your day, buddy? How are you feeling this Blue Jays off day?
Off days are great. They're great. I came over to the East End a little early. I went for a drink next door to cool down as much as anything, so I could be dry here. And,
You're not a big heat guy.
No. Built for power, not heat. No, not at all. So today's not my day, but off days are good days. None of us are in the city of Cleveland right now, which is a blessing, thank God. So, no, everything's good. I'm very happy to be here.
Now, taking the opposite approach of you, Nick, you decided to, rather than come down early, go to the Comedy Bar on board.
I'll tell you, so we were, after we did that whole debacle, we went to the other comedy bar. I didn't even realize that there was more than one. And Is there only 2?
There's only 2.
For next time, yeah, I gotta know that. But I get there and they're saying, "What the hell are you doing here?" I basically look like an idiot, and I walk out the door, and I couldn't help but feel a little bit like the Toronto Blue Jays. Dazed, confused. I don't know where I am. I don't know where I'm going, and it's all just one big comedy. So I'm happy that I made it here at the end of the day.
We're happy you're here. Kaitlyn, you were actually pretty happy to be in the Danforth area.
East Ender.
I'm
Yeah.
East Ender.
Yay.
I went to high school in this area, lived just down the road, could go visit my parents if I wanted to. I'm not, but I could. Why not?
Is that your mom in the back? All right, let's talk some Blue Jays here, obviously, and I mentioned it off the top. The Cleveland Guardians, a very, very good team. And the Blue Jays came out and took care of business, something they do so rarely in 2024. And it actually gave me hope that maybe they're onto something. New guys coming up from Buffalo, a different vibe in the clubhouse. And then Boston comes in, and it was just pretty much the same old, same old. Nick, we'll start with you here. Tough to take this Boston series, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's actually the worst possible outcome that could have potentially even happened. So, I mean, when you're in a wild card race and the team that you are racing for said wild card comes to you and then does that, yeah, it's pretty bad, Scott.
Tough to take really any positives out of that series. Kaitlyn, I know that one of the things that is a big concern amongst the fan base is that this team is middling, and that's where they're going to stay all year, which is a very dangerous place for a team to be.
Right.
Especially when you're like, as a fan, you have no idea what direction they're planning on going.
Right.
Do you think this team, if they are in that area that they're in right now, has it in them to do, lack of a better term, the right thing?
Right. I mean, it's the right thing to sell off at least some pieces. I think they'll probably have to admit to themselves that it's not working. Unless they can come out and go and sweep Cleveland and win against Boston and the Yankees. I don't expect that. I think that what they did against the Red Sox was sort of the team that they've been. There's also not a lot of help. I mean, Bo's on the IL right now. I don't think Romano's very close to coming off the IL. Garcia just went on the IL, so there's not a lot of help coming soon. I just don't think things are going to change very quickly, and so we're getting to the point where you do have to make a decision come July 1st, probably, in terms of what to do. I think that yes, selling at the very least some guys, if you can get someone to take Justin Turner, maybe Kikuchi, like those.
Yeah.
But I think the big decision will be, obviously, do you move on from Vlad and Bo, or do you try to run it back one more year with them?
Cleveland, Boston, Yankees, Houston, Seattle is the next 5 series this team is up against. And the response of the audience is laughter, which really does go to show you where this team is at. Keegan, when you look at this team, and we just touched on it here, do you think there's any possibility that they sell deeper than their expiring 1-year contracts if that's the route they decide to go?
That would be interesting, so no. It's been a while since they did something that interested me. Which is tough in my business. It's a tough business to be uninterested in, but I don't think so. For baseball reasons and for business reasons. For baseball reasons, you have Vladdy and Bo, and a few contracts going beyond that, Romano, Bassett, et cetera, et cetera. And when you look at the structure of this team, it kind of gets to what I think about when people ask me, when are they going to fire this guy? Well, I've learned to think of the Blue Jays as a company instead of a baseball team. Everybody.
You're finally getting it.
Lord Jesus, it took me a long time. But everybody has a boss. And if any of us in our jobs, if the boss under you gets fired, your seat's hotter. And that applies to baseball just as much. And I don't even mean that as a shot, it's just the reality. And I've I've learned to view them as a company. So when you look at how they can make these moves, if they are going to get really aggressive, well, that's something that a front office might do in year 1 or year 2 where you have some security. But at this point,
Year 9's a little tougher.
Year 9's a bit tougher. So this front office, based on where this front office is, I think they have to make that attempt. You know, whether I agree with it or not. When I put myself in their shoes, yeah, they're trying to save their jobs. They're trying to save their reality, their vision of this team. Again, whether I agree with it or not. But looking forward at those contracts that are beyond a couple of years, you think of someone like Kevin Gossman. This is his peak value.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be higher than this.
No.
But that's very difficult because that's a decision that a front office with some run would have to make. So
And this team hates selling high.
I'm not sure they've done it. But when you look at those contracts that still have a bit of term left, I think everything is still tied to Vladdy. It's even with their performance, I think everything is still tied to those two guys in this era of Blue Jays baseball, really. And when you can run it back just one more year, and if you're on the Blue Jays side, you're saying, hey, look at the D-backs last year, look at this, just get in. And I'm not on that side necessarily, but I think they still keep trying to do that, unless it gets real bad.
You bring up a good point though, because they are in a really interesting situation with Bo and Vlad. Because the truth is, they're probably not going to get enough value out of them for whatever they can get returning in assets. Now, obviously, with an expiring contract, it's almost malpractice for them to not at least next trade deadline, be figuring out what the hell they're doing and getting everything that they can.
It's a big part of this, though. Like, as much as anyone in this room likes Bo and Vladdy, like in Philadelphia or whatever city you want to pick, they probably don't consider them as highly.
No.
There's always going to be that hometown bias, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but what you think
That's
you
a
would get
big
for
thing. Yeah.
just like any of these teams, what you think the Blue Jays would get for Bo and Vladdy right now, no chance. It's not happening.
Does Vladdy deserve to go to an All-Star game?
Yeah.
This
year. I mean,
This year.
He didn't really deserve it last year. When he was there.
Yeah.
All those signals are on laser.
Can we get an auditory response from the crowd? Does Vladimir Guerrero Jr. deserve to go to an All-Star game?
Josh Mayo, popular vote.
All-Star games are sort of supposed to promote the game, and I think that, you know, the occasional
Pity
underdog
vote?
story is good, but I also think like you want the Vlads, you want the guys that like sell the game, Mookie Betts there, Bryce Hart, like you want all the stars there, like that's how you get people to watch the game. So as much as it's be fun if like a Davis Schneider gets voted in, you don't want every team's Davis Schneider at the All-Star game.
Actually, there's only like one guy. And Vladdy will be in the home run derby probably as well. Like, MLB definitely wants Vladdy in the home run derby to try to win it again.
Yeah.
Give them nothing to get, right? Focus on one box.
And Kaitlyn, I love that point. Do you think then a guy like Paul Skeens is a possible All-Star?
I honestly
Because I want to see him.
Because if you want to like grow the game and you're looking for the future of the game, you want young people to watch the game because young people are going to be the future of your game. Why not take the most electric pitcher that's in the majors right now? The youngest guy that's going to be the future of the game. I would love to see him there.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And speaking of young guys, we have a bunch of Buffalo Bisons that are now playing on the stage. And it is something that is kind of mind-blowing if you look at it in the terms of go back 1 year from today. And Davis Schneider, Ernie Clement, Spencer Horowitz, Addison Barger, and Aroldis Martinez are all teammates, but in AAA. Now, obviously, Nick, it's exciting to see our youth coming up, but at the same time, there's kind of a double-edged sword here of things have obviously gone terribly, terribly wrong for us to be in this situation.
But I keep going back to like you were saying flashback to a year ago. I say flashback to a couple months ago and try to lay the thought experiment of Spencer Horowitz is leading off. Davis Schneider is batting 2. Ernie Clement is in the mix somewhere. You got Barger in there like, what the fuck happened here? You know? All of the shit hit the fan, not just a little bit, all of it. as exciting as it is to see all these guys here, and I do think that it is the right call. I think we were all calling for it, and this Toronto Blue Jays management has a tendency to be several months behind the fan vote, I guess, if you will. So they got there eventually, which is good, and I do think it's the right call. But it also does, like you said, kind of lead us to believe that the truth of this team, which is the veterans, are just not getting it done right now.
Yeah, because if you just came to me in a time machine, to Scott in March, and you were like, this is what's happened, I would be like, holy shit, is George Springer injured? And you would say, no, in fact, try to get him out of this line.
That's a better life. Would you trade life?
So, Kaitlyn, do you think, how much longer does this team give George Springer a rope to play almost every day? And do you think that the rope is getting shorter? I mean, and do you personally still believe George Springer is not washed?
I think that there's still a lot of opportunity for George ahead. I mean, I think that someone talked to Schneider about it yesterday, and the way that he was speaking about it, it didn't sound like a manager that was, about to bench one of the players who's making the most money on the team. I think that, it's been tough to watch, and I can sympathize with Springer. I mean, like, most of us maybe get the opportunity to age gracefully away from the spotlight, hopefully, and he is aging before our very eyes and not super gracefully right now. And so, I think the Blue Jays are in a tough spot too, because he is a guy that you're paying a lot of money, and you want him in the lineup. I will say he's done a good job defensively. He's almost at a point where you like him in right field. He plays good right field. It's just his bat that isn't doing it. I would say that a lot of times, though, I think something and then the team does something opposite. Keegan could probably relate to this. So I could be saying right now that I don't anticipate him being, not in the starting lineup, and they could, bench him tomorrow. We'll see. I think that we're still going to have at least this full season, and then probably another year. I mean, there's 2 more years on his contract after this. It's it's one thing to cut loose after with just 1 year remaining, but that's a lot of money to go that you're still owing George Springer. So I think that they're going to let him figure it out.
They did? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to bring this up, and I wanted to ask the panel this, because this was a little thought experiment that we were doing in our podcast the other day. George Springer right now is the currently ranked second worst in OPS in baseball. He has 5 homers on the year, which puts him on pace for 12, of course, over a full season. Springer dingers, by the way, that's what he's nicknamed after. His batting average is currently below 200, and he gets paid $25 million. 24 point something, actually. I don't want to exaggerate, but a lot. So my question to the panel is, can you name me 1 or 2 players that you would, how do I phrase this, that you would not rather have on your team than George Springer? Considering the contract, the production, everything.
Like Time Machine, Chris Davis, Baltimore Orioles.
That's what we're talking about here,
Yeah.
It's bad.
It's
It's
ugly.
really bad.
I know, even the Astros just DFA'd Jose Abreu with $34 million still on his contract, and I actually had the thought of, never had anything left about that.
Literally, so I'll tell you right now, the only player that I can actively think of was Javier Baez on the Detroit Tigers. That would be the one guy that I would rather have at least or less than George Springer.
One of my favorite memes is Javi Baez, and then they do the 50 Cent.
Oh,
First pitch, and then he still
Look at
swings it.
Down on 3. But this gets like the Springer contract. Like it's kind of like Ryu. Everyone else wanted to give Springer 5 years. The Jays gave him 6 because other folks recognized how time and human aging works. And it was always going to go this way. Obviously, it's always going to go this way. But in the Blue Jays' minds, and I don't want sure at the time I wrote, like year 6 probably won't be good.
Yeah.
But ideally by that time, there's some sort of banner hanging up there, and you point at it and you say, who gives a shit? This was good. And George Springer with his World Series MVP, his playoff record, when he was brought in, the whole idea was, this guy's going to be the guy who's going to have that Joe Carter moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, going back, like I feel a million miles from that right now, but going back 4 years, that's where this would have been. And God, it hasn't happened.
Well, we all were saying things like this team needs a guy who knows how to win in the playoffs.
And it made sense at the time, but I feel like that's come a year early. And they're not going to send the guy out right now. If this exact thing happens the rest of the year, maybe today, next year is when we're talking about a real uncomfortable decision.
Yeah.
But man, oh man, it's just come a year early. And since the Blue Jays went a year further, it feels 2 years early. It's tough. It's ugly.
It's really interesting when a team struggles like this because there is so much speculation around the clubhouse and the vibes and the chemistry. Kaitlyn, they still seem like a pretty cohesive unit. Do you get any sense that there is any sort of, outside of losing sucks, any side of kind of like bad vibes in the clubhouse?
No, I mean, I think they're all doing a good job of putting on a brave face. I think that the starters in particular, I mean, I feel for them because, they have a lot of pressure on their shoulders because realistically they know for the last 2 seasons, if they go out there and give up 3 runs, they may have just lost the game. And, other teams and other starters on other teams don't have to live with that kind of pressure. The Blue Jays have a good starting rotation. They have a group of veterans that, can handle that and are professional about it, but it's tough. I mean, I saw the look on Goswell's face yesterday and Chris Bassett the other day, and they looked like kind of frustrated on the mound when things were going wrong. And it's not necessarily a frustration, at their teammates. It's just a frustration at sort of the fact that they are just playing with such thin margin every single night, not just on a game-to-game basis, but just like overall in the season, right? Like, I mean, they've basically squandered their margin for error at this point. They've got to be essentially a 90-win team from here on out in order to just get to 84 wins, which gives you a chance to, overtake the Royals or something and make a postseason. That's what we're talking about here. And so, I think that they, and baseball players too, like they don't think the way the fans do as well. Like they have a better grasp of, how long the season really is, for better or worse, honestly. And I think that they don't have that sense of frustration or panic yet because you can't. It would drive you crazy to do that every single day. So they're very professional about it. All these guys have been on teams that have won a lot before and have lost a lot before. So they've been through it. So, you don't get I think there's been other years in other clubhouses that you've got a sense that guys are nailing it at this point. And I don't get the sense about that with this team right now. But I do think there is a level of frustration that they, just for whatever reason, have not been able to play up to their potential. And it's snowballed, I think, from last year. And I think it's just been tough to come into the season and know the fact that, this team is only going to go as far as the guys in this room. And to do that, you have to be better than we were last year. And for the most part, guys have been worse.
Really tough to not be frustrated as a pitcher in this staff. I mean, the numbers for Chris Bassett, I think it was 32 innings pitched. He has 32 Ks, a 1.5 ERA in his last 6 games. He's 3-3. Like a 1.5 ERA. The guy is 3-3. It's so bad. Nick, Vladdy cut his hair.
What do we think about that, by the way? We like the new. Okay. Yep.
It's like fresh off a breakup, cut the band.
That change had to be made. That's everybody. That was the big trade acquisition. That was the big move this season. Okay.
Springer's next.
Springer's next. Shave it down.
Springer doesn't have anything to cut off. So.
I don't even like that. I say Springer should wear a wig. Put a wig on there.
Honestly,
Forget
maybe
about
that's the key. If he just goes bald.
Can I ask a question to Keegan and also to Kaitlyn here? Just off of the whole topic about, I guess, like the attitude and the mentality and everything, I feel like something that I've noticed, and a lot of people when we go live for the games, and people are mentioning this, and I'm not in the room, you guys are there, you see them in person. Bo Bichette and his mental right now, like it feels, and this is just watching on TV, watching the at-bats, watching him in the dugout, all that stuff, it feels like he's a little checked out, and I would go so far to say almost doesn't want to be there. And I want to preface this by saying, like, this is full speculation, and I'm going to ask you guys to speculate on it, just because I feel like you would potentially know more than this than me. But like, do you think that there's any truth to that?
I feel like he's really low key. Like, is that fair to say? Like,
Yeah.
he's probably the most low key guy in that clubhouse, and he's probably the hardest guy to ask a question to. And there are certain guys, whether it's the front office or a player, where they have certain tics in their words, where when I pick up with them, I think, oh shit. With the general manager, for example, when I ask him a question and he says, oh, good question, I think, oh fuck, that's too bad. I think that means I just asked a stupid ass question. With Bo, when we ask him a question, and I've done this 100 times, and he says, it's just about competing. And I think, oh shit, I fucked up. So Bo is extremely reserved. I respect the hell out of Bo. I really do. The numbers have not backed it up. I was wrong about his season. I thought he would get MVP votes. I really did. Coming off last year, being healthy, I really thought he'd get MVP votes this year. Kind of a 7th, 8th, 9th finish, like one of those guys. But I also get that when you're watching on TV, it's not the most spicy, inspiring thing. And it's like when we talk about the clubhouse right now, like I really agree with Kaitlyn, like that was wrong. But also, when I think back, I started covering the team in 2017, so I think I was the kiss of death in some ways. But every story I hear about 15 and 16, and I'm hearing more of these as I do the book about those years, is like there were a lot of assholes on those teams. You all know who they were. Hey, but you loved them because they were your assholes. And those clubhouses, some of the stories I've heard about those clubhouses, I think, holy shit.
Yeah.
That guy tried to fight that guy? Are you serious? That guy tried to fight him. There's room for a couple of assholes if you fit it in the right way, I guess. And it's not always going to show itself in the way of like a clubhouse fraying or a guy blowing up a manager or something, but I try to look around baseball to the teams that are really doing it. The Dodgers, the Phillies are a really great example of that. And Bo is just such a low-key guy. I don't think he's ever going to be that rah-rah face of the team. I think his best fit someday, regardless of which city that's in, will be on a team where he is that second or third passenger on the team and consistent and has a fantastic career. But he's not going to be the guy out in front of the camera, probably.
And I get that vibe too, and I also get that vibe from Vladdy.
Yep.
Which, as the cornerstones of this current team, would say that maybe the front office should have realized they needed one more, let's call him a cleanup hitter. Let's say one cleanup hitter. A guy who can hit for power. Because, so Kaitlyn, listen, we all know that Vladdy is an above average player. He's a phenomenal player. Does Vladdy have a place on this team long term if what he is right now is all he is? Just a very good player that doesn't have a lot of power, gets on base, hits around 300.
I mean, I think that he could have a place on this team. I think that he's one of the guys that I would point to that probably wants to be here. I think he really likes playing with the Blue Jays. I think he is the type of player that imagines himself being with one team his whole career. I think that would be very meaningful to him. And I think that, honestly, I think what would help him would be bringing in someone else. I mean, to go back to what we were just talking about, I think one of the things the Blue Jays never did was never replaced a Marcus Semien. And to me, that was the guy that was the guy that was the center of that 2021 team. And like, to me, that's the best team that I've seen. I mean, the bullpen wasn't as good that year, and the starting pitching wasn't as good. I mean, you did have Robbie Ray winning the Cy Young, and there were some guys that were certainly capable. Ryu was there that year too, but I mean, that offense was incredible. And I mean, the Blue Jays didn't make the postseason that year because, you know, various reasons. One of them being probably not playing at home for half the year. And so when I look back at that year, it's like the Blue Jays were never, and I think that's what really helped like Bo and Vlad probably especially that year, is that you had a guy like Marcus and George missed part of that year, but he came back, and so like to me it's like the Blue Jays have never found that guy, like a Marcus Semien type, that could be sort of the leader for the team, and so it wouldn't have Bo and Vlad having it all on their shoulders. And I think that, you know, Vlad is a really fun, engaging player. I think he would be a great player to have in Toronto his entire career. I mean, I do think it's odd that he doesn't hit for more power. I mean, I'm kind of puzzled by that. I mean, it's great that he's, you know, hitting 300 or whatever it is now, and he's getting on base a ton, and he's hitting those line drives. Like, the hardest singles you'll ever see are from Vlad. But, you know, I do think he's still a player that people would root for and rally around, and he's still a really, really good player. But I do think that if they were to, you know, sign him long term, you got to bring in someone else, I think. And I don't know who that person is, but, you know, there's got to be someone else.
Ricky Tiedemann is in Dunedin right now with his first rehab start since getting injured. He has struggled to increase his innings. He's struggled to stay on the field. Keegan, when you look at the expiring contracts, Kikuchi's gone at the end of the year, Chris Bassett has one more year. How important is Ricky Tiedemann's development and being able to stay healthy to the future of this Toronto Blue Jays starting staff?
Extremely. He is testing the limits of the human body. I think. And you see a lot of this from the other pictures right now. This is why the Blue Jays have succeeded with Kikuchi, Barrios, Bassett, Gosman, all guys who they signed over 30. And that's that model of developing position players and signing pitchers. But you have to, you know, develop position players. When they have tried to develop these pitchers, Ricky Tiedemann, when he is at his best, blows me away. And I know that there has to be room for pessimism with a prospect where, well, maybe he'll do. The beauty of this is that he might be amazing. He really might be amazing. Kind of like Blake Snell when he's at his best, where he's not going to throw 120 pitches over 8 innings, but over 5 innings, incredible. Absolutely incredible. And beyond all of this, Ricky Tiedemann's cool. I know that, like, it's, you know, I know I do the numbers thing, I get exhausted by it, but Ricky Tiedemann, like, he gave up on the long hair, he went for a perm of some sort, he's got the tattoos on the hands.
Give me a guy with swag. Yeah.
He is cool, and more importantly, he knows it. He's quite aware. But he backs it up. If you're aware of your own coolness, you better back it up. But what he can do from the left side is absolutely amazing. With his fastball and slider, it's something that you rarely even see from a reliever, let alone a starter, who can go 5 innings. So, based on how he does tonight in Dunedin, maybe he's given up a billion runs. I haven't looked at my phone in a minute, but if he can get back to AAA by, let's say, 2 weeks from now, that's enough. He's a guy who can come up, and this feels a bit like a lazy, like this is their trade edition type thing, but this handles his innings limit as well this year. You don't have to worry about that. And Ricky Tiedemann's a legitimate top 100 guy. He's really good. But this team has not developed a ton of starters. A couple that they've developed, Adam Kloffenstein just got called up by the Cardinals. Sam Robertson, he's going to get called up by them probably later this year. But that depth they haven't developed much of. They need to a certain extent. Because Ricky T is so talented, but also the beauty of the Bargers, Martinez, Horwitz, yeah, they're good, but they are also guys who are controllable within a, and I hate this, I feel like I'm anti-labor or something, but I'm like, I want these guys to make more money than they are right now. But from a team standpoint, that's what allows you to go out and shop big every year. That's why the Dodgers are such an incredible franchise. Yeah, they signed Shohei, but they've always got a next guy in line. the Jays need that to be Ricky Tiedemann, because if it's not, their next pitching prospects are years away.
Right.
Which means they'll have to keep spending money.
Speaking of Dunedin and prospects that we can expect to be called up, Joey Votto.
I never thought I'd see him again.
No, and I mean, he sprained his ankle in spring, and that was the last we heard of him.
I remember being there that day in, good Lord, Clearwater, and going down in, and he hit a home run and left the game. So I'm sitting up there.
Yes, it was a home
run. And he came out, and he looked at me, and he said, well, it hurt like the Dickens. And I said, what the hell am I covering right here? I just got to know him. And he said, I think it'll be okay tomorrow. There's been a hell of a lot of tomorrows.
Yes. Yes. It's COVID all over again. Vic, Joey Votto obviously excites the fan base. I can't wait to see him in a Blue Jays uniform. Candidate. But do you get the sense that some of this is just a band-aid for how bad this team?
Absolutely. And I don't even think it's like that hidden, you know? Like we were actually, me and my partner Adam, we were out at the Rogers Center. We were interviewing some fans, and we brought up Joey Votto, and we said, "What do you think? Should the Toronto Blue Jays bring up Joey Votto? What do you think he'll do with this team?" And I was genuinely stunned, right? This was just a standard Tuesday. You know, no giveaway, no nothing. These are just people going to get some loony dogs, you know, whatever. And they were like, this season fucking sucks. Let's make it kind of entertaining and exciting. And I truly believe that is what Joey Votto is going to provide. He might hit, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 home runs, and we'll all love it, and you know, we'll all go to our phones and tweet at the Yankee fans, and you know, all the patriotism will be great. Is he going to save this season? No, he won't. But you know what? Who cares, man? It's still going to be really fun to watch.
He can save the vibes.
Kaitlyn, Addison Barger, number 5 prospect with this Blue Jays team, probably of all the guys from Buffalo right now, might have the highest ceiling. Curious on your thought on how much playing time he should get and how much playing time you expect him to get.
Well, you know, I think the tough thing with the Blue Jays roster right now is that everybody is the same player. Like everybody is a positionless player, and it's like, where do you fit them? And I mean, there's some guys on
Positionless and play best at second base.
Everyone doesn't have a position, but if they had to, it would be second base. So honestly, I think that, you know, Schneider has a tough job ahead of him because he's got to get all these guys in the lineup, and all of his, you know, guys that are swinging the bat right now are either second basemen or like maybe a corner outfield if you squint. Like, so, you know, I think that what will help Barger is that he has been hitting well. He looks a lot more comfortable. I was actually quite stunned, honestly, like the difference between his first whatever handful of games it was and now. I mean, he just looks like almost a different person. Like it looked like the first time he was up, he looked like shocked. I mean, I don't blame him. It's overwhelming to get called up to the majors and the circumstances of which he got called up, and obviously also getting thrown into left field, which is a position he had never played before. And I'm like, just do it. It's easy. You know, I've been really impressed with the way that he's played and how he's adapted so quickly. He looks so much more comfortable, and I think the opportunity is there for him to earn more playing time. You know, that's where the trade deadline also is going to come into play. Is if the Blue Jays, you know, can move off some guys. You know, maybe you're not going to get a lot back for Justin Turner or Kevin Kiermaier, but the secondary effect is it opens up a roster spot and it gives some of those guys more opportunity to play. So yeah, maybe you're not getting a huge prospect haul for those guys because it's only, you know, they're on expiring deals and they're not playing that well. But I think the benefit is that you open up a roster spot and maybe you have Raul Vista around and he gets a taste of it. Maybe you get Addison McGrath in the lineup more, Spencer in the lineup more. So to me, that's what I'm watching at the trade deadline too, and I think it would benefit the Blue Jays from, even if they're not going to go full sell, I think they should do something in between. If you want to do a buy sell, get some guys back that can help you for next year, get a back end starter that could maybe take the place of Manoah, but also like open up opportunities for guys this year.
This team is built around pitching and defense, and what really stood out about what you said there, Kaitlyn, is that with some of these guys that they brought up in a desperate attempt, really, to bolster their offense, the line that got me is if you squint, maybe they're a middle infielder. So to get the best offensive lineup, you need to take a hit on defense. Keegan, obviously, this is not how it was drawn up.
Yeah, to win, they're having to stray from their entire philosophy. We've seen that with, and I've talked about this about lately, but like I think about spring training, like what the fuck am I doing in spring training? Spencer Horwitz is the leadoff hitter, he's playing second base, you know, what am I doing in spring training all those years? But nobody saw Horwitz playing second base, I did not at all.
Yeah.
Having Schneider Jansen as the 1-2 for a while, I didn't have that whatsoever. Like I'd love to pretend to sound smart, no, didn't. And
Screaming that George Springer's sixth and should be lower?
yeah, absolutely. And all of these changes we have seen, even Arelis Martinez coming up the other day, that surprised me. Another great example of something that I could say, oh yeah, I saw that. No, didn't whatsoever. Because in AAA, now Arelis' bat is amazing. Like watching him take batting practice, it reminds me a lot of, and different player types, but of watching Teoscar Hernandez take batting practice, where you saw what raw power looks like related to game power. Now it's hard to get to it in a game, but my God, when Arelis hits it, it's amazing.
So we should be excited for Arelis.
You should be, with a caution that you might be disappointed.
That's baseball, yeah.
That's the whole jam. But his raw power is absolutely incredible. And he's not really a huge built guy like an Encarnacion or someone taller. Like he's quite a smaller built guy, but has an incredibly powerful swing. And when you look at these young guys coming up, Barger included, who, I mean, everything he does is just insane max effort. If I did anything he did in a baseball field, I'd die.
Oh, I like the way you put it. It's daddy hacks. That was you. Daddy hacks.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Yeah.
term.
He and I are often few similar bodies, but but all of these prospects have upside. They're exciting. It's clashing with the lineup. I think there's a clash happening right now, where the lineup that we've seen over and over and over in 100 different shapes is one thing, but all of these prospects coming up, Horwitz fits this lineup a little more naturally. On base, I really like Horwitz as well.
Me too.
I like him a lot. It's not sexy, it's not exciting, but over 50 games, you'll look and say, oh shit, a 390 on base, like it'll work. But Arelis and Barger, there's some excitement to all of that. You look at the prospect pool of guys like Emmanuel Bonilla, like guys like, there's some power in there, but it kind of almost clashes with this philosophy of the Blue Jays, where you want them to come up and just maybe pull Arelis out of those beatings, you know, and keep him from that. But it's really different styles. And
Sit him down and be like, only hit solo home runs.
yeah. But you've seen this change a little bit, and moving on from Daniel Vogelbach was probably not the hardest thing in the world, but moving on from Biggio was legitimately hard.
Yeah.
They love the guy. I really like the guy. I respect the hell out of Kevin Biggio. Those are not the high-end moves I know a lot of people want to see, but you're starting to see this incredible patience of the organization start to fray a little bit. And with these prospects, they're a different type than this lineup, and that's why I'd love to see Arelis Martinez play baseball. That would be great, but I think you'll see it a few times in Cleveland.
Yeah, sure hope so, right? Like, let the kids play at this point. It's so weird to bring them up and have them on the bench for a couple games, but it's how it's going. Okay, so we are now at 8:30, which means it is time to go into the audience here. I'm curious, is Angelica or Cam here by chance? Yeah. Sam, do you have a wireless mic in the back there, buddy?
Maybe.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do Cam or Angelica, do one of you want to grab that and we can try to? Yeah, thank you so much. This is all stuff that I should have arranged before the show, folks. This is not how you run a show, but here we are.
I have a question for the audience, and you just scream it out as it comes to you. This entire panel so far has been under the impression that we're gonna sell, we're gonna be shit, it's gonna be bad. If they start to turn it around, or I don't even know if that's possible. Okay, let's phrase it this way. What would you do to save the season?
Fire Schneider. Fire Mattingly. Oh, fire
Yes!
I take a 110 mile an hour foul ball to the back.
I feel like this is like, do you believe in life after love?
Okay. Well, let's play this thought experiment out. Kaitlyn, does firing John Schneider and Don Mattingly save the season?
I don't think so. I think that generally speaking, managerial firings just are something that you do to get a response out of the players, to wake them up or something like that. But generally, to me, it usually is one of these things where it feels like a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. I mean, sometimes it's guys who've lost the room, and so you do have to make a change. But I don't think that's the case right now with Schneider. And I think that ultimately, I think that it was Keegan was saying it earlier. It's that if you fire Schneider, you're just kind of exposing the fact that this front office hasn't been able to build a team and have a hire a manager. So
That would be their fourth manager.
Yeah.
It's a fourth manager.
Yeah, so I think that if that was to happen, you just look at Atkins, and he's kind of just confessing on himself there that he hasn't been able to build a winning team, and he hasn't been able to hire a manager.
Nope. But do we believe he's doing anything right? So what is it really about?
Atkins?
What about Atkins? Useless.
Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to go to you folks in the crowd right now. Okay, so raise your hand if you have a question and you want to. Okay, we'll start with Leslie Nope in the back here. Thank you, Cam.
Hello, friends. How the fuck did they forget how to hit home runs?
That's fucking what's up.
What was it that, let me take I hadn't shielded my eyes yet. Tell them there's an entire back of this room. I take myself back to April, New York. I feel like this is like a Sex and the City episode. It's April, it's New York. And when Don Mattingly did that scrum, what was the quote? Damage can be a scary word. And I remember standing in that scrum, holding my phone out and saying, what the fuck? Listen, I don't have the gold gloves, I do not have the rest of it, but home runs are cool. I have been hesitant to come around on this, but I really feel like there's been and it's going to shock everyone, some overthinking involved in all of this, where the word damage, number one, I'll dig its grave. Power, home runs are cool. But when you think back to 2021, which might be the best lineup we see for 20 years, like in 10 years, I might be writing, imagine if they had that 21 lineup. But
Kill me if that's the case.
Me too, please, 2 for 1. But I've thought about this so much that if there's one way to fix this team, it's power. Hit home runs. Stop giving up so much. Hit home runs. Because when you look at modern pitching, yeah, you're going to run into some starters that aren't really big league starters, but I think about like the postseason. Like I don't really care much about April. Think about the postseason. The teams you're trying to beat. They have 5 closers, and you're going to try to string together 4 singles. It's tough. And the Blue Jays, I remember in that same scrum, like Don Mattingly in New York that day said, yeah, we have 4 or 5 guys who could hit 20 home runs. And I'm thinking, how many days? Right? Like, I have been very confused by how this team has talked about power. Because I think that, big picture, I think there's been an overcorrection. I think that in 2021, that team was good enough to sneak in on a wild card. It should have, and it's not going to happen every year. That team should have snuck in on a wild card. That was the type of team that can make a run.
So do you think this is a team philosophy thing then? Like, does this runs right down to the analytics? And I'm not, by the way, I'm not saying it's analytics that are the problem. I'm saying it's the Blue Jays analytics department that's the problem.
Yeah, like I don't need everyone to delete their calculator apps. That's okay. But like, I really think it is organizational, and I think a correction towards pitching and defense, which are fantastic. That's great. Like you see, this rotation is amazing. I admire this rotation of veterans. The defense with Kiermaier, Dalton Varsho, especially another guy I'll be writing paragraphs about 20 years from now. Amazing. But I think that this organization saw what happened in 2021 and said, woo, but went a little too far that way, because power can change a lot of games. If you add a home run to 6 or 7 or 8 of the games this year, my story's different. I'm not writing about a 3-2 loss. I'm not writing about an error. I'm writing about, holy shit, this guy hit a ball really far.
And that's the thing, if we had a cleanup hitter like Paul DeYoung who had
I mean, they can trade for him this
That's right, it's the deadline. That could be when we bolster it.
Yeah, I know. They'll be
Never
so-
had a good time. Harvey's sitting next time.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is really testing.
For real,
This.
thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
All right, well, cheers, gang. And so we've got about 10 more minutes before we need to get out of this room, so let's go back to the audience here, right up front. Before we do that too, Cam, can you do me a favor? Can you send this over to Leslie at the back there for her question?
Thanks. I made a list. I wasn't whenever I was trying to type things to think about it. You guys touched a bit on the clubhouse, so that's one thing. I'll just do quick points and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. You two get to be in the clubhouse a bit. I know you say the vibes are all cool, but I have to wonder if I'm like an Ernie Clemens or a David Schneider, who's the last week, for example, kind of the only guys getting on base regularly, and then you're not in the lineup the next week, and the lineup changes every day. There's somebody in the rooms pushing buttons and figuring out who's there. Does that not affect these guys? Like if you're doing your best and you're doing what you're supposed to do, and you get on base and you show up and somebody who hasn't done blue ball for however long is back in the lineup, how does that not affect them? And I guess it kind of goes to me, the overall sense of things, having been in Minnesota for the wild card and being in there when you could feel you were there, the
Yes, it
vibe
was.
physically changed in that building. And I saw him pitching and warming up before the game, and I thought, oh, they're going to do it. They're going to put Kikuchi in. That sucked the energy out of there. And I know they still had to hit. We know these guys can't hit, but like it goes back to this whole energy. And then you have Atkins running the bus over Schneider at the end of the press conference. And is this team really cohesive enough? Do they feel like Schneider has their back? I know he stands up and talks about it in his hat every night. You guys have to listen to it. Whatever, but like really, like after what happened last year, and I see the kind of stuff that someone else is pulling the strings about, doesn't that have to affect guys day after day after day when they're trying to go out there and do their thing?
I think their like energy and aura around the team big picture is separate, or at least I think of it separately as like the day-to-day vibe in the clubhouse. Like, so when I was talking before, like the day-to-day vibe is like everybody's still showing up, putting their work in, like everyone's still on time. Like that's what I pay attention to. It's like, because I've been there in previous years where like guys are rolling up real late for the game. So that's not happening. So I feel like the day-to-day stuff, like the attitude is still good. Everybody's still doing their work. Everyone's still very professional about it. But I do get your sense that the like energy and the positivity and like just that like confidence around the team, big picture is like not there. Like it feels like, you know, fans are very, you know, apathetic or just angry at the team, whatever it is. And so I get the sense that like, yes, there's not like a positive vibe around the team. But like, I don't know that baseball, and like, you know, you're not in the lineup necessarily every day, and they still kind of know, like, they're still, you know, rookies on the team, or more or less, not Ernie, but like more or less they're still kind of the younger guys on the team. But I do sort of see what you're saying though, and I do agree with like your point in that, like, at what point do you just start rewarding the guys that are hitting and performing?
Well, I mean, I kind of want to push back a little bit on that and just say, what was the ins and outs of sitting Ernie Clement the other day in a must-win game where you have George Springer and you have Kevin Kiermaier both in the lineup? And I mean, defensively speaking, those guys are phenomenal, but I just don't think that this team has the luxury of playing both of them on a regular basis. And I mean, maybe you folks know more than me, but I guess when I was looking at that lineup in a must-win game, not to get swept and not to see the hottest hitter in there, I guess I just wonder what is the reasoning? What is it? You know?
The fact we're relying on Ernie Clement in this is insane. And I love Ernie, but it is absolutely insane. This is where we're at.
It takes it back to when, like, Kaitlyn and I were sitting in Steiner's office. This was either yesterday or today, I don't know. Time's a real concept at this point, but when he was talking about Kiermaier, Springer, and Turner, the three players over 30 on his roster, and he said that there are some public numbers that suggest they're going in one direction. We have internal numbers that are going in this direction. I mean, I have internal numbers that say I'm 170 pounds. It's whatever. They might have their own standings too, but there's a mystery of what's going on in these decisions. And
Well, I love how she described how the lineups are being made, kind of like the Wizard of Oz, about just pulling levers. No one really knows what's going on.
I think that matchup decisions are getting too much weight.
Right.
I think that extreme matchup, and it's not just lefty-righty, it's like Arelis Martinez yesterday.
Yeah.
They did not like him against the sinker
Yeah.
of Bayo. And he didn't know what the hell that was going. But they're extremely matchup heavy, I think. And at a certain point, here's my 9 best hitters. Let's see what the hell happens. It's especially when things haven't been going well so far. But I think that, like, the Ernie Clement situation to that especially is extreme deep dive. Perhaps trying to be smarter than the other 29 teams. Analytics on some sort of matchup problem.
Well, I think that's the thing to all of us, right? We hear the word analytics, and I feel like no one really knows what that even is.
That word needs a PR team. It needs a rebranding.
Google. And if I gotta hear the word positive regression again, I'm gonna fucking lose it. We've got time for one more question. Okay. Did you, by chance, get a City Connect backpack?
I did.
You didn't?
Give it to someone else, like this.
Oh, give it to someone else? All right.
Yeah.
Very nice of you.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go. You know what? Lizzie, go ahead here. She's earned it, folks. She's earned it.
I want to know what you think the future of Danny Jansen is. And
Yeah.
why he's the best Blue Jay.
Best Blue Jay.
How much is it gonna make for New York?
Yeah.
Hey, catchers really are up my alley. You know. It's growing up, the big kid plays catcher. You know. But I think Danny Jansen's a fantastic ball player. He's come up. This is 11 or 12 years in this organization.
Mm-hmm.
He is someone who I think is very intelligent, very thoughtful, and caring. We're talking about soft skills, human skills. But if you're a catcher working with pitchers, like Chris Bassett and Hyun-Jin Ryu and Kevin Costner are different dudes. And Mountain Francis, like, you're talking about different languages, different vibes, different a lot of things. You need to be a bit of a manager of people. I have rarely been as impressed by a player as I am by Danny Jansen. I really respect him. What people do for a contract, goodness, is it 4 or 5 years, close to that 8 to 10 to 12 range and stuff? But what I like most about Danny Jansen's game is that 3 or 4 years ago, he took a risk and he said, you know what, to hell with it. I hit the ball to left field really
Yes.
This one thing I do is cool as shit. I'm gonna try to do that more often.
Yeah.
And we hear all the time players saying, you know what, I'm gonna try to hit the ball to all fields, I'm gonna try to work hard, like fantastic. But Danny Jansen has really grabbed his own identity, and I really respect that. I have as much respect for Danny Jansen as any player on this team. Really, I do. And I think he's a guy the Blue Jays should go to their comfort zone and beyond to keep.
Yes.
I have to agree. Like, he's a guy that I would overpay to keep.
Yeah.
He knows this organization inside and out. He knows the pitching staff inside and out. They have earned his they've earned each other's trust, and there's so much to be said about that when it comes to battery mates. And also, he's been on the walk-off, so just fucking give him his money.
And Kaitlyn can speak to this as well. Like when we see like what he does in an average day in spring training, holy shit! I mean, by the time we get there at 8 a.m., he's 20 meetings in. Like he is really foundational.
Yeah, he's already earned his 30.
Yeah. Give him a few million. You don't need to give him $1 million. Don't show but give him a few minutes. He's worth what he gets.
And I gotta give him credit.
One bad thing. Nobody ever ran on Yannick Rolina or Punch Rodriguez. They run on the Jays.
Yeah.
They run a lot. They do
run on the
They need
lot
to
on the
get a
Jays.
lot better. Yeah. The Red Sox
But I
have
think some of
become
that is
aware
also
of
the pitchers.
that.
Pitchers,
Yeah.
Of course, Gabby controlled. Yeah.
All right, folks. I hate to do this. But we do need to get out of here. If you can all do me a big favor and give it up one more time for Kaitlyn McGrath, and Keegan Matheson, everybody. Now we do have some prizes here.